Welcome to Chalk Dust. It is the podcast that gives you a front row seat to some of the best classrooms in the world using play-by-play commentary on real classroom footage. I'm Dr. Nathaniel Swain.
And I'm Rebecca Birch.
I'm a teacher and instructional coach, and I work with schools in person and online to improve their classroom and instructional practice.
And I'm currently Head of Secondary Learning at Catholic Schools Parramatta Diocese. I'm also completing PhD research on the links between explicit instruction and student wellbeing.
As you might know, Chalk Dust is a different kind of podcast. If you are enjoying it, we encourage you to share it with your colleagues or give us a like or a follow if you are getting a lot out of it.
I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands I'm recording from in Sydney. I'm on Gadigal country.
And I pay my respects to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations and to the elders past and present. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, Hannah Pointon, and Hannah is a Year 3-4 teacher at Woodstock School in Hamilton, New Zealand. She first began her first full year in only 2023, which is incredible, and these years have been well spent because the practices we're about to see are fantastic. This is the same year that the school moved to a more structured and explicit approach to teaching with higher behavioural expectations. Because Hannah works with a high proportion of students with additional needs, she quickly has recognised the importance of treating behaviour as a curriculum in its own right and did complete her 2-year registration and formal mentorship in 2024. She now leads the implementation of whole class reading and is deeply committed to building clear, aligned systems and routines that help students and teachers thrive. A very big welcome, Hannah.
Welcome, Hannah.
Thanks, guys. Really excited.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about your school and the part of the world that you're from?
Yeah, so Woodstock Primary is a primary school, so years 0 to 6 in Hamilton in the North Island of New Zealand. As Nathaniel just touched on, we kind of started this more structural approach to learning as more of the science of learning came out at around 2023. And from there, we've just really dove into these explicit and structured ways of teaching.
Would you say your whole school's going down that particular path, or are you a bit of a lone ranger?
No, I think whole school has definitely been the key to moving in this direction. I think in 2023, we kind of started with implementing structured literacy, and then from there, structured maths, and then writing approaches informed by the writing revolution. And last year, unpacking how to teach behaviour as a curriculum. So it's really been a nice, steady flow on. Yeah.
We're going to see some snippets of that practice in this episode, and we're really excited to look at your entry routine, something that we've featured on the podcast a few times, but something which we're really interested to see in action in your particular classroom.
Yeah, never gets old, does it?
Never gets old. There's so many different factors to consider.
Many.
So we'll have a quick look and we'll pause the play if we want to see exactly what you're thinking as we look at each of these practices. So here we go.
Anders, Maria, Buddy, Eugenia, Muna, Camilo, Quinn, Breeze, Archie, Maria, Ava, Noah, Julia, Acha, Roland, Bella, Grace, Morgan, Tumai, Brylan, Archie, Edgar. Give me a thumbs up if you're in the right spot. Perfect, yo. While I'm talking, your shoes, you can be taking your shoes off. Ready to go in the shoe bucket. Your foot side, hold it in your lap. Ready to go into your knees. Your handwriting books are already out because you just already got them out. You're going to sit down and you're going to write the date. The date is Thursday, the 12th of February. What's the date? Thursday, the 12th of February.
And just for people who are listening and not watching this, although you really should have a look at how this is working, where camera is inside the classroom, we're looking outside at the students who are all lined up beautifully in roll order and are now getting that explicit teaching around what we're actually expected to do as we first come in. And I think you might be doing a do it again in just a moment, Hannah. Let's just keep watching.
Let's try again.
There you go. Let's do it again. So I'm sitting back down, ready to try that stand up and turn all together.
Like how you've got your shoes in your hand, ready to drop in the box, you know? And stop. Nice hiking shows. Shoe box. Awesome. All the way down and across. Also,
Shepherding them in.
writing down that date. It's on the board. You'll know you're done when your hands are tucked away.
So tell us a little bit, Hannah, just pausing this for this moment in case people are also wondering, what's the goal around that initial helping students come into the classroom and that sort of physical reinforcement you're doing there?
So this is filmed in our second week back of the year. And so one of my biggest things at the moment is just scaffolding how this looks. So at the moment, it's very much me in there, me talking, kind of getting us through those routines and I guess guiding them. They actually line up in their desk order. And that's why I was calling it out, because we're just double checking. Now we're kind of in week 5 and they actually know the order perfectly well. But at this time, they were still a little bit unsure. So calling out the order, just giving them time to quickly get checked, coming in, sitting down, shoes in the box, and helping guide them through of where they're sitting and who that person is who walks all the way down first.
So you're almost like giving them that reinforcement of which direction to be going because it's still a new routine. I'm guessing now that you can actually let some of this happen by clockwork. Yeah,
now they know it so well, but I guess that's one of my biggest things right now is reflecting on what I would have just been like, come in quietly and sit down, and it wouldn't have gone exactly the way I wanted it to. So it's just taking all these little steps that lead to the end goal, which is them coming in, them sitting down, and it's fully independent.
What I was noticing, the view from the camera, so if you're not watching it, you can see through the window. So you can see the backs of little heads all outside the window sitting down. And I noticed there's like a fair bit of movement. And then I think this idea of this threshold where once they cross that threshold, everything is nice and calm is really important. And it's almost like with that sort of doing it again and the repeating things back to you and you repeating instructions a couple of times, it just gives them a little bit of downtime from having been out in the playground to get all those wriggles out before they come in. Hannah, do you want to walk us through what this would look like if you did not give that time and instruction?
Yeah.
Well, I think I did used to just as soon as I would arrive at the door, like, okay, let's go inside. And I would have this dream that they would come inside quietly and sit down and everything would be really, really beautiful. And I then was kind of left on the back foot when it didn't go as I had hoped. And then you're kind of left on the defense, having to clean up what's just happened so that you can move on with the day, but also readdressing, for next time. And so I think having that really proactive, structured approach that is planned and scaffolded out so that there is more of that gradual release and seeing them, do it really well.
So you're not doing all these corrections and consequences for people doing the wrong thing. Instead, you're making it really clear what the right thing is.
And I think on your note of the wriggling bodies, like now, it's just one thing at a time, and that wasn't exactly the goal that time, but then we're getting better and better, and every time we can make these little tweaks that improve. And
become faster.
And I think outside is for wriggling and getting that out of the system, and then inside is for working. And I don't personally have a problem with that. I think that's a good time to stop and slow things down. And I can see that as you're going through those instructions, it's calming and the wriggles start to stop.
And just helping them to know what sort of that co-regulation can look like. If they're having trouble getting into the swing of things, these are designed to help them know that it is time to focus and get ready for learning. Let's just watch a little bit more to see how this finishes up.
Who has opened their book and started that date? Ready? One just in my first person. Nice.
That positive narration you're doing there, as well as a little bit of correction.
Starting.
On the screen as they're coming in, there's the model of what the pencil grip should look like and where it goes
Yeah, first
on the
person
page
down.
as well,
You're
which
going
is
to
a
put
great
your feet
visual
down
too.
and tuck their hands away, sitting up set. Will be the start here, my name. Hudson, fantastic.
Everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
Here's my second person. Awesome, Noah. He's done. I know he's
Nice
done. It's
handwriting
not
too.
cooking. He's waiting. He's still trying.
I like how the redirection is very neutral. I think as young teachers, I'm hearing they struggle with that. It becomes oppositional quite quickly. And I like how that redirection was, I can't remember whether you named them or not, but it was certainly not like you were singling them out and you gave them a bit of take-up time as you kept moving through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some people do ask us, how do you organize your desks and how do you get things happening? So we've actually been very lucky to, Hannah's sent through some pictures of the sorts of things, and people might wonder, what kinds of things do you put inside? In Australia, sometimes desks have tubs and you put them in a tub. Sometimes you might have a chair bag where you put things behind. In your desk, they've got a little lid that opens and closes, which is really cool.
Yes.
It's a modern version of that, which is handy. But I'm just going to show an image of what's in there, and you can just talk us through what kinds of things you do to keep that routine working and ensure that we don't overload those tubs with too much stuff. So tell us about what's inside.
Yeah, so when I was also a BBN teacher, I always wondered what people did with all the stationery. You know, it would show up on the first day of school when these kids would come with these heavy books and all these book bags and all these books, and I wouldn't quite know what to do with them. Now I just collect in. So I've got up on the board the books that I want in their desk, and the others I keep in the cupboard for later in the year. And in their desk, they've got a whiteboard pack. So it's the zipper pack where it's got the whiteboard, the pen, and then rubber, just because we are using them so often. It's just so easy for them, everything to be kept together. They bring them all down to the mat, or they get them all out on their desks, and it's seamless. It works really well. And then they have their reading book, their maths book, their spelling book, their writing book. Yeah. So that's
when I used to do, because I used to love tubs with my prep students, or what you call year zero in New Zealand. With my prep students, we used to do it sort of every second week. We'd do a big clean out to say who's been accumulating all kinds of junk in here, similar to what you might encourage, say, your secondary students to do with their lockers if the lockers have gotten out of control. Yes. Executive functioning still developing, and this is in teenagers even. So it's really helpful to give them that opportunity to clean out and to reflect. Has that been helpful for you as well?
As minimal as possible of what's actually in there, just having their essentials in there. And then one of our classroom habits is having an organised desk. So when that's our habit of the day, I do random spot checks for an organised desk. And
positive light on it.
And they love it.
Helping
they
it work.
It's the most fun thing ever.
It's strange the things that kids love. Getting things right is really satisfying, I think, and doing things neatly. Tell us about this, what you've photographed here as well. So we've got the desk from before, but here we've got an opportunity to see something else on the carpet. What have you got?
So our desks are in rows because I love the forward facing. But with the rows come, since they're individual desks, they kind of shuffle throughout the day just as the children are moving. And it's really hard for them sometimes to know how to get them back in line. Sometimes I would say, can we straighten the desks? But they actually had no concept of straightening it. Of which desk to base the straightness off. And so I actually just cut up some Velcro dots and Velcroed them to the floor, the little blue strips. And
I was wondering about that, whether that's sticky tape or not, because I've tried masking tape and it really doesn't work because it gets so ratty. But here you've actually gone the Velcro method, which is a lot stronger. So that's really smart. I hadn't thought to cut it up.
Yeah. It's great. It's
okay, the more you know. We're going to have a look a little bit in your reading class now. And I'm guessing this task is all about building that reading fluency. And the focus, I have to say, in this particular lesson is awesome to see. So it's a great thing to have a little look at. So let's have a look at the next one.
Shoulders. On hips. We're waiting for everyone. Hands on shoulders. Hands on hips. Hands on hips. Okay.
Checking with you. Why we celebrate Waitangi Day. On the way to school, Maya and her little brother Henny saw flags along the street. Mum, Maya asked, why do we celebrate Waitangi Day?
I love this because I'm always talking about closed questions, but I haven't thought to use them during whole class reading like this. Can I ask, how do they know when it's the time to put the word in?
When I pause and I'm looking at the same text that they're looking at.
And that's all.
So it's so seamless though. It's amazing. They can just tell that it's coming. Like, how did you get this routine to work? Because the focus is really high. The students obviously know when the right time to insert the word is. They've got high accountability because you can hear if everyone's reading or not. And you've also, if you can look at the video, you've got the students are all tracking. They've got is it a piece of paper or a ruler?
Yeah, no, I've seen people use the rulers, but the paper's just quieter. So I've just gone for the paper.
So it's a piece of paper that they're using to keep track of which line they're up to, and they're moving down when it's the right time. It is just incredible. It is like an orchestra working together and getting that targeted reading practice. How did you get them there? Tell me your steps that you got to that point.
Well, this year I've got a year 4 class. So last year when they were in a year 3-4 room, they would have also done the whole class reading. And we kind of have some norms and some talk moves that we use. And so we kind of follow the sequence. We start with tracking with me, and then we go into echo read, and then choral read, and then buddy read, and then self read. So I guess this is kind of the one with the most support. And I think we started off with, when we were first doing it, I would really put emphasis, on the pause, and I would really kind of almost change the way I'm saying the sentence so that they know the pause is coming.
Like more exaggerated.
Yeah, like they would know that that's about to happen.
But now it seems like they just know. Like it's only the slightest thing that you're doing with your inflection or your pausing, and they just seem to figure it out. It's awesome.
And they're
really
amazing at, when there's a full stop, I take a breath, and we've talked about we're at a full stop, so I'm going to take a breath. You're not going to jump in because it's a full stop, and what I do is take a breath. So
and that actually forces them to pay attention to the punctuation. That's really clever.
Yeah. And these words that I'm purposefully missing, some are our high frequency words, and some are words that I would have just gone over because they're our vocab words to do with the reading that we're learning about.
Very clever.
And just a practical question, do you just mark up your own text?
This year we have been, but in previous we'd used like junior journals and texts that were around, and now we're kind of creating them on AI platforms. Yeah, but we're kind of, ideally we really do want a variety. This is all integrated learning, so some of our big learning kind of lends itself more to a narrative, some kind of lends itself more to a non-fiction, just kind of depends what our focus is that week, what our big learning is the week.
And I think it's probably hard to find non-fiction texts that are very specifically targeted at syllabus points.
Definitely.
Especially for things like history, you don't want them necessarily just reading out of a textbook all the time, so you can actually embed all that vocab. It's a really nice use of AI there.
Yeah.
So Hannah, what's the benefits of this approach as opposed to the teacher just reading aloud and having students track along, or getting students to read it aloud together, like a choral read of multiple words or sentence by sentence?
Well, I think we start off with our tracking read first, and I think it holds them really accountable. I can visually see the tracker moving down. If they get stuck, they know they can have a look at their buddy. That's one of the reasons why we use them, and they're really great. We've done a lot of work around the buddy. And then also them getting that another say and that, another exposure to the vocab word being used in the context of the sentence. And I think also, because I'm reading the majority, it's also modelling fluency.
Hannah, you mentioned that you lead reading in your school. Do you like to constrain the amount of strategies teachers are using with students, and what would be your reasons for that?
I think that at the start of the year, and when you're introducing these different strategies, it's really good to have a variety to pick from, but it's not so set that you can't pick and choose. For example, if you think that your learners have nailed the text and they've read it really well, you don't need to do the echo read. Like when I'm doing the echo read, I might only echo read one sentence that I notice we struggle with. Same with if I'm doing the tracking, if I know this is a really complex text, I might just read it myself first to them, then we might do the tracking. So it's really open to customize and just kind of giving the tools, and this is, what we've tried, and kind of pick and mix, your learners the best.
So adaptable for teachers. They should be responsive and use the tool that best suits the job.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's just watch a little bit more.
Waitangi Day remembers the Treaty of Waitangi, signed in 1840. The Māori chiefs and the British made a treaty. The British came to New Zealand by boat because they wanted to trade and settle on the land. Yeah, they did. The treaty was meant to help the Māori and the British live together and protect everyone's land and super duper job. I love that you're moving your trackers down with two hands. Now that we've done tracking, we're going to do echo me. So remember, it's I say, you say. Do it with me. I say, you say. Great. Using your trackers again. Starting from the top. My turn first. Just waiting for everyone's hands down. Thanks, Archer. My turn first. Why we celebrate Waitangi Day.
Why we celebrate Waitangi Day.
On the way to school, it's okay. Wait. On the way to school, Maya and her little brother Hemi
On the way to school, Maya and her little brother Henry
saw flags along the street.
saw flags along the street.
Mum, Maya asked,
Mom, Maya asked,
why do we celebrate Waitangi Day?
why do we celebrate
I
Waitangi?
liked how they're getting that inflection as well. So you're actually modeling there the use of the punctuation or the dialogue to ensure that it sounds like it would if it was spoken rather than read. And that's something that is often hard to teach, but this echo read obviously has a great role in try and make the performance sound like mine, even if you're not explicitly aware of all the things. Students are actually really good at imitation, and until they master that imitation, they can't produce their own versions themselves. I think that's a really great role in them trying to get it right from the way you're doing it before they start varying things in their own fashion, which is really
And
clever.
I think it sounds like they're enjoying it. That's the other thing is like if you,
So
I don't know
much
if you did that
expression.
with a bunch of year nines, I don't know if you get that same
Yeah.
energy, but we can try.
Yeah, and I think it's also the texts, finding ones that are really engaging, that they really want to know about. Like this week, we've just done ancient Egypt. Like that was just incredible learning. They were so hooked. Setting up these lessons. So, you know, I'll start with a video hook and then we get into the words and the pictures, and often they've got so much to add. Then we get into the reading, and then they're so keen to do the follow-up task because they've just got so much to give on these topics.
Yeah, and you built up all that background knowledge for the reading.
What I love as well is that because your routines are so strong, everyone is participating, everyone's thinking, and it's not like you're showing these ideas and you're hoping that it's sinking in. It's like you're just doing these practices to ensure that it's sinking in, because then everyone gets access to that great learning and then you can reap the benefits later in their writing and so forth.
And I think when we were first setting this up, like originally when I'd first, you know, come across this whole tracking idea and how we were going to use the trackers, I started with my class in a circle on the mat, and we just did one line at a time, moving it down. So, you know, even though we are in week
really
2,
clear.
these kids have done it last year, so they all know what to do. So yeah.
Very cool. All right, we're going to flip to maths now to see a little bit of how this might look in some part of the lesson. I think we're doing some maths facts to begin with.
Nice.
Just getting 100% before you start.
Great.
So good.
Okay, all reading it together in 3, 2, 1.
What is half of 10?
They're answering on their whiteboards.
I'll write what you're done, waiting for 80% people. Nice, Noah.
Positive narration.
Alex's done. Shallow's done. Ryan's done. 3, 2, 1. Hold it nice and still. Awesome. I love that you're tuning it even if you're not finished. Holding it this way. Alex, can you try hold it back up there? Okay. Park it. Half of 10 is 5. Wipe it. And who is ready for the next one? Matt is. Elijah is. Looking up at the 2D. Looking at the words to read them. 3, 2, 1.
What is half of 18?
Go.
Love that establishing that everyone's got it fresh in their working memory before they look in. I like using that common response. Sometimes kids are looking, but they're not really focusing, or they're not looking at all.
2 hands like you're down in the car. 3, 2, 1. Chin up. Hold it nice and still. Awesome. Awesome. I love it when chinning it. Even if we're not done, you hear me counting down, you get ready to chin it.
I was wondering, Hannah, so you've got the opportunity you've got that laser focus and they're working through these questions. Is there a time when you would swap the whiteboard response for, say, a choral response, which would obviously take less time and might get through more questions? Or what's your thought processes there?
Definitely. I think it's because we were so early on in the year when we're filming this. I was also taking that time to train up the whiteboard norms at the same time.
Yeah, it's clever.
And prior to this, we had a really good conversation about wanting that 80%. And so our thing today was, even if you haven't finished, that's
Show me
okay.
what you've got. Yeah.
Show me what you've got anyway. And when you hear me counting down, you get ready, you know, and so we can all do the synchronized chin up. So that was kind of the thought process behind the whiteboards.
And then if they don't finish, what happens?
If they don't get it done in time, I just kind of keep a note who did finish and who didn't finish, but just kind of scanning past, you know, yeah. And I think also that scanning, when I was first getting them to chin it, I was kind of just having a quick look and then they'd park it, wipe it. Whereas now I'm almost, especially setting this up, almost exaggerating that scan, almost I am looking and I'm looking at your board and I really want to see the work that you've done and it's the expectation. So almost over exaggerating that scan in the beginning so that we can get that participation.
Everyone knows that their work matters.
So it's routine theatre.
Yeah, making it really obvious as they're, it's really awesome.
So secondary teachers, they often demonize rote learning. So this idea of just memorizing basic facts. What do you have to say to people who critique this idea of rote learning? What's the impact on fluency?
I think having these basic facts to fluency is just crucial for moving forward with any maths. I think these kids need to know these things so quick in their heads, even to the point where counting on your fingers is no longer knowing the skills enough. We need to be able to know them as soon as possible, straight away, with almost without having to think of them, because or else it becomes a barrier later on for moving into more complex maths, even early.
I know you're an early career teacher. Have you taught up to year 6?
No, I've only done 3 and 4.
I was curious about like when that kicks in, because I know with reading, if you don't have the automatic background knowledge and the automatic word recognition, students start to really diverge around year 4.
Yeah, I think to be honest, it's already kicked in. I think our spread is huge, and it is, some of those kids don't have those basic facts within 10 knowledge, and it's a real barrier when we're going on to teach multiplication or division or algorithms, or because it's just so much of a cognitive load having to think through these things. So I think knowing them to fluency is just extremely important.
Just so to hit that message home, obviously this is a really important pathway to that richer understanding in maths, because as you're pointing out, when students are missing this factual knowledge, if it's not practiced properly, if you're not giving lots of feedback on it, then essentially kids will always be held back by that foundational knowledge being missing. This is not the end point, obviously, but it shows you how well you can build those foundations, because then we've got something really solid to build it upon.
I've got one more, which is a subject dear to my heart, putting things away. I think it's a real opportunity for chaos. When I was training to be a teacher, I worked in special ed, and we would take up to 6 months to train a student to take their lunchbox back to their bag independently without any help carrying it and getting it into the bag in the right place. So I never underestimate what it takes to teach this stuff. I love the next clip that's coming up. And I do think that with little people, every break-in routine, every transition is a massive opportunity for absolute chaos. I really appreciate this one coming up.
Yeah. And I think what Hannah's really done is from chaos to concerto. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
The most beautifully being from your back, looking like you're ready to go and get your lunchboxes. Keep going this way. And we're going out the outside and in the inside, and we can check by looking up.
There's
Let's
little signs above
go,
the door,
row
which I
4.
love.
Awesome, wonderful walking. Nice to
Yes, out and in.
I'm guessing they're color coded so that when you're going out, the green is for out. When you're coming in, the green is in. Very smart. Let's go and stop.
Yeah.
Row 2.
Everything in the room is very purposeful. It's not super decorative. It's more super functional.
Yep, Marie Kondo has been into this room. Only things that spark joy are available.
Good checking out there, guys. Well, Bella. Nice Archer.
We've got some traffic control management as well. We're early in the year. There's not too many kids at once. It's not a ruckus happening. I love this. I think it's so clever. You actually do it again there as well for a student that just didn't do it exactly how you're looking for. You had that moment to give feedback and to get that positive finish as well. Now, I'm going to do something funny here. I don't usually agree with extraneous load, but this is so beautiful the way that it's done that I'm actually going to play this one more time with a little bit of background music to see if you're picking up what I'm putting down. So here we go. Hopefully Hannah will get a kick out of this. We'll see. But it is, like I said, it's a concerto. It's a choreographed affair, and it deserves to have
it's like a dance routine.
Yeah.
It deserves to have a soundtrack, and this is the one that made sense to me.
Or its own TikTok.
Here we go. I just love it. So they do look like they're just like floating through so seamlessly.
Yeah.
Especially this bit when they start crisscrossing. This is very well
Yeah.
executed.
And the
Look at
hands
this.
behind the back, yeah. They're
Don't
weaving.
bother anyone else. I just love it. So that's what I thought of when I watched it, and I loved it for that reason. And I think all classrooms should have that sense of calm and majesty to them. It's, oh, we're doing important work here. Let's bring a level of importance to what we're doing. It's so cool. And Bex might have a follow-up question.
Yeah. Hannah, with the inside lunches, is that a thing in New Zealand?
Well, we're really conscious of littering. And so they either can kind of eat before or after morning tea time, and morning tea is just now for play. So they eat before at their desks, and I normally read to them while they're eating, and then they put their lunch boxes away, and then they can have their whole morning tea time to go play, rather than, you know, so often some of them are forgetting to eat because they're just so excited to get out there. So
And that's
same
pretty
with
common in
lunch.
primary schools in
Yeah.
Australia, or at least in Victoria. It might differ from state to state, but it does mean there's less littering, but also a little bit more social time that the teacher could actually read a book and have a class sort of discussion about
Yeah, and
something
it's a really
incidental.
nice time. It's like a really, you know, it's one of those relationship building times where you actually just really get to know your students better.
And I'm glad you said that, because in the UK, there's a lot of controversy about things like silent corridors, that they're militaristic and this kind of thing. But I think what you don't see within that is those moments of having the lunch. It wouldn't be very interesting footage for our particular listeners to watch.
Show kids having lunch, but
Yeah, show kids having lunch.
But it's
and
a
talking to
lovely
the
time.
teacher. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it does
is.
happen. And I think when we see a lot of these routines, we sometimes miss out on the fact that they actually free up time for building
Definitely.
confidence, building belonging, building social norms, and building the kind of structures that keep kids safe and wanting to be part of a class.
100%. And I think the kids like it, and the kids feel really proud that they've just been shown how to do this thing correctly, then they go and do the thing correctly. And it just forms into this really nice cycle because they feel proud of themselves and they feel good about what they've done. And as a teacher, I think, you know, when I was in my first year of teaching, the lunchboxes did not look like that. And so,
What did they
you know,
look like? Just to let people know, like, what were they like this period of time?
It was like I would just send, at one point I sent the whole class on one of my first weeks, I said, okay guys, go get your lunch boxes. No, you know, you can imagine 30 children running for the door. And I was like, you are really left on the
jostling
back
and the
foot.
screaming,
Like, what
yeah.
are you doing in that situation? And then they come in, I look in the corridor, all the bags are unzipped. And then you're kind of left with cleaning up, you know, this situation of how am I going to deal with this in a way that going forward I don't want it to look like this. And it is kind of like what you said earlier, Rebecca, like that tone of voice that when you're frazzled and when you're left not knowing what to do, you know, you think that that's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And in Australia, I don't know whether you have this problem, but we have creatures that can get into bags and things like that. We used to have a very fat possum at a previous school that would just walk around eating all day. It could barely walk. It was so fat, just eating all the kids' lunches.
Goodness.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of things. And you're talking about the unzipped bag. I've had a snake under my classroom door. And it depends where your school is, but it's not. I saw a lizard in a school today. So it's you want to zip those bags up.
Yeah, it would definitely be a motivator, but we don't really have that problem, luckily. Yeah.
But the calmness with which the students are then starting that break, it is really quite regulating and quite helpful. And for me, if you use the analogy of like an orchestra or a choreography, like it actually, when you perform something like that, it is satisfying. It doesn't have to be militaristic, but it is high expectations in terms of what we're looking for. Because, and as you're saying, there's satisfaction in that, isn't there, Hannah?
Yeah, and I think they feel really proud of themselves and they like that, and they feel proud that, you know, all their bags are zipped up and they get a shout out because our bags in our class are all zipped up, or, you know, whatever it may be.
Easier,
and it, you know, it just builds into that cycle, and now it's a habit. And so now it's something that we, and I think also I've realized what I kind of put my energy into as a teacher is definitely the outcome. You know, if I'm going to be checking the bags every block, the bags are going to be zipped up, and it just becomes a habit. Whereas if I'm just saying, oh, I hope our bags are zipped up, you know, it's kind of a little bit more empty.
It's constantly on the back foot rather than something
Yeah.
you're preempting and proactively doing.
Yeah.
Nita Archer says, if you expect it, then pre-correct it, which is exactly what
Definitely.
you're
I
doing.
think that's been my biggest thing, reflecting on my time as a BT and then my time now has definitely been trying to take that proactive, scaffolded approaches. Yeah.
I think on a Friday afternoon when you're tired, making that little extra investment to keep that structure going will save you a bit of heartache, because all those little flaws in the routine start to creep in on a Thursday and a Wednesday and then a Tuesday, and then you don't have any.
Yeah, and I think, it's when I look back, lessons that don't have that routine and that structure are just so easily sabotaged by those moments and take away from our learning minutes, which really is, the goal.
Nathaniel, what are your takeaways from this session with Hannah today?
You can use many metaphors to describe your classroom, Hannah. I'm thinking oil's machine, I'm thinking a concerto, but I actually think I'm leaning into my dance background here and thinking actually what we're doing is choreographing success. So we're actually helping students get everything that they need to be successful, giving them opportunities to practice so that eventually it just becomes so natural. And I think back to the days when I was dance teaching or when I was dancing myself. This is being a little bit self-indulgent here. But when you're performing and you're doing something that you already have mastered, there's an immense sense of satisfaction, of achievement, that you don't even have to think about all the intricacies anymore. You've mastered them. You can think about all the extra things that might come with that performance. And I think learning is very similar, and creating that learning community is similar as well. And if you're not so inclined, this is my pitch to you to say you could make your classroom feel as warm and as welcoming because you've orchestrated or you've engineered that success. And all of that hard work really does pay off. And eventually it deserves its own soundtrack, including Tchaikovsky's Sugar Plum Fairies, because it's just that good. What about you, Beck?
I've been thinking of the non-example this whole time. Like this whole time Hannah's been talking, I've been thinking, what does the opposite of this look like? And I was thinking about secondary where students aren't necessarily safe at school, a corridor that is chaotic, that might contain 4 of your worst enemies and have no lines, and all that opportunity to cause destruction and kind of malevolence everywhere you look. I was thinking about how valuable it is even just for parents to be able to send their students to a safe environment. That even say for little kids, because I can only really draw on my special ed days, but I remember whenever I'd be in contact with primary children, thinking about how fast they move and how chaotic they can be.
Accidents that happen.
And the accidents, and actually I did do a duty once where there was blood, and they move quick, these kids, and it's distressing. And so to be a teacher in that or a student in that, it could make school not a fun place at all. And so I think what you've done there, Hannah, is you've really reduced friction. So we talk a lot about time for learning and behaviours for learning, but I was actually thinking because of the lunchbox routine, which is my favourite, I was thinking about behaviours for safety as well, which I don't think we talk about enough in Australia.
Yeah. No, I think it's a hallmark of a very successful classroom that kids know exactly what's expected of them and they're safe and they're welcome to be able to achieve their very best, and that nothing's going to put that sort of sense of belonging or success at risk. And that's really clever. It's really great for equity, obviously, as well, which probably is where you started from, I'm guessing. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you, Hannah. Thank you for inviting us into your classroom and for sharing this early in the year footage of how your new class has been settling in. I hope it's an inspiration to more teachers to feel comfortable to share their practice with their colleagues, to have people come and visit. But if you want to, feel free to share some footage with us as long as you get the necessary permissions. We love seeing the work that everyone is doing, and Hannah, it's been a real joy to see how you've implemented some of these fantastic practices. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks so much, guys.
And I think if you feel the face of the profession coming through, I'm very excited for us.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you.
yeah. Definitely excited for Aotearoa as well, but we've got fantastic leadership and growth in your schools happening.
If you want to see all the classroom footage, make sure you watch on YouTube or Substack, and we'll see you next time.
See you, everyone.